Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the February 1st meeting of the Historic District Commission. Before we get into the formal things, I'm going to do a few introductions, which are going to be a little difficult because we have people in different places. But to my right, Johanna Landis.
Good evening.
Dan Brown.
Good evening.
Reagan Rudick.
Good evening.
To my left, Isaac Gidlow from the Planning Department. And Dave Adams sitting over on the left. Karen Bouffard will be with us shortly, and online we have Rich Blaylock, who's our city councilor.
Good evening.
Good, hi. And we think John Wyckoff is going to join us remotely as well. If he does, we will be sure to introduce him.
And you are?
Oh, me, yes, Margot Doring. I'm sitting in as chairman tonight while John is on vacation. All right, the board's action in these matters has been deemed to be quasi-judicial in nature. Any person believes any member of the board has a conflict of interest, that issue should be raised at this point or will be deemed waived. Anybody wishing to raise any issues? No.
But here's Karen.
And Karen, welcome. All right, next on the agenda is approval of minutes from January 4th and January 11th.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a correction on the January 11th minutes on pages 5 and 6, application number 3. I think Mr. Auger would like his name spelled A-U-G-E-R. It should be corrected for the record.
Okay. Any other corrections or comments on the minutes? Okay. Does anybody need to recuse themselves from the minutes? All right, take a motion.
I move that the minutes be accepted with the name spelling correction.
Second.
All in favor? I'm sorry, we have to do roll call because Rich is online. So, and because we have some people missing, Johanna, I'm going to have you vote as a full member versus alternate member tonight. Okay? So, Johanna.
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
I wasn't
And
there.
Rich?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so that passes. Okay. Isaac is going to run us through the administrative approvals. We have one request to postpone, which is 11 Chief Street, and we have two that need to be pulled for conflicts. That would be number 5, 85 Daniel Street, and number 7, 114 Maplewood Avenue. So Isaac will start with number 1, and we'll go through the remaining ones.
Okay, so the first administrative approval we have this evening is for 40 Court Street. They are proposing to install HVAC equipment, a condenser with screening at the property. And do we have the applicant or anyone who could speak more to that application in the audience? This is sort of what they've proposed as far as having conduit lines running on the property. This is the proposed area for the condenser itself. More views of that. And then additional conduit lines running up this wall as well. Do we have any questions from the commission members?
No, other than just the note that on the plan, which comes later, it says condenser can be hidden with lattice if needed, and I think it is needed in this location. So
Absolutely.
I know that we have a few different examples of the coverings, and so I guess I think, does Nick have some that are just like any of these are fine?
Yeah, exactly. A few that he can sort of give to the applicant and they can make a decision on which they would like.
Okay. Great.
Okay, great. So, sorry, go ahead.
Anybody else have any questions or issues? Okay, well then I will raise one. I'm not clear how this conduit is going to be snaked around the eave of the bump out. It's very awkward and it's a rather deep eave. So I don't know if anybody else had any concern about that. This is running up the side of the building It is visible from the street. Granted, most people go rather quickly down that street, but it is visible, and it will have to snake around that, that eave. If anybody have any issues with that? No.
I have to say, in a jaded sense, to me, it is the description of back of the house. And I didn't see any, I didn't take any umbrage to it.
I mean, I think I've seen enough of these to know how it's gonna look.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
On to number 3.
All right, so number 3 is 55 Gate Street. I would just like to make one note. They have kind of condensed the scope of work here, so they are just asking for HVAC equipment, a condenser unit with screening, and the additional siding is going to be removed from this application. Anne, I see you out there in the audience. Would you like to speak to this application at all, or just say a few quick words for us?
Yeah, the client has decided to just repair and patch in new siding in this location. We've had to do a lot of interior structural work, and at this point, we're not wanting to put that in the budget. And it's not a huge area. We're just relocating a couple windows, and it is easily patched and not have to get into taking the sheathing off and then glassing. And so that's what our proposal is.
Thank you. And does anybody have any questions or comments for this one?
Just that the conduit be painted to match the siding.
Sure. Okay. Moving along to 82 Congress Street, number 4. So this administrative approval application is for exterior ductwork and for louver changes on the building. And is there anybody in the audience who can speak to this application? Oh, yes, come on up.
Good evening. Mark Giannini from McHenry Architecture. We have previously been here and approved for improvements to the space for the storefront that used to be Bull Moose, which is now going to be Summer Sessions. In doing the fit out for the space, we were also upgrading HVAC, and part of that was providing exhaust and fresh air louvers and ductwork for the new mechanical equipment. It was originally proposed to have both ducts out in the back alley here. And two things that occurred during construction were because of the adjacencies of the parking garage that exists there under the building, as well as some of the ducts or the exhaust for the kitchen on the adjacent building, we had to move this intake up, or this exhaust up, and we had to have it 25 feet from the garage and 10 feet from other adjacents. So we've always planned to have the ductwork here. It just became taller, and it has that gooseneck there. We also removed some of the other ground-mounted condensers as part of the project to clean up some of the equipment in that area. The second piece on the next page is another duct that we were trying to basically get both on the same side of the property back in that back alley. But during construction, there was just not enough room to get 2 ducts and also get the separation we needed there. So they ended up bringing that particular duct and louver out the other side and chose an existing infill panel that was there that has other mechanical vents and horn strobes and stuff to basically poke out and provide that louver. That louver wasn't painted currently in the photo, but is going to be painted so that matches the existing finishes.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, so that infill panel has always just been an infill panel with
Yep,
vents and stuff. Okay.
correct.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. All right, so we will be skipping 85 Daniel Street as that one's being pulled out. So our next administrative approval will be for 150 Daniel Street. And this application is to just change an existing casement window change it to a double hung that will match the rest of the existing windows that have already been approved on the property. So you can see here, it's going to be this window up on the second story on the rear of the building. And do we have questions on that one?
No, pretty
Okay.
straightforward.
Great. All right, so again, skipping number 7, we'll move on to number 8, which is 33 Bow Street. The request is to replace existing wood decking with a Trex material, and I will get down to images. So just the deck boarding right here. Is there anyone in the audience who might want to maybe speak a little bit more to that application, sir?
Good evening, Jeff Cloutier with Bonnet Page and Stone, with the general contractor for the building owner. It is simply just to replace worn deck boards on 2 floors, replacing the wood with Trex composite decking. I'm willing to answer any questions.
What in particular do these things look like from the underside? Because that's really how most of the public's view is going to be of them.
How does it look? It looks the same as it does from above. Both sides of the board.
I ask because some synthetic planking materials have scores and locking devices and whatnot on the undersides. These do not.
These do not. We'll be attaching them from the sides.
Okay. Any other questions? Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so our next administrative approval is 440 Pleasant Street. And this application is for some final approvals for exterior lighting and windows on the property. And it looks like we've got somebody who will speak to that application. Thank you.
Hello, Robert Wademeyer with Winter Holben. And yeah, ideally, I think this is I don't know, 4th time we've arrived here, and this is hopefully going to address the lingering detail items in regards to both the windows and the lighting. Suppose with the lighting, initially, we've taken off the upper lighting fixtures. We've just done the row down at the bottom, pointing up. And then I believe the question beyond that was just sort of the wiring for it. So actually, if we could skip to the final page there, it kind of gives us an idea. So that, yeah, there's the updated rendering, which is the uplighting. And a very intense moon. But then we should have like 7.3 further down. There we go. So again, that's the fixture on the water table there. And then the plan, which is a little difficult probably to read from here, is just showing that these fixtures are designed to basically be daisy chained from a power source. So the power source would be located inside the structure. We would do essentially 2 penetration points through the stone. We're calling out for ideally at an actual masonry joint, so we don't actually go through the stone direct on those areas. And then essentially, you know, we're going to feed half the fixtures with 1 power source, and so 2 power sources, each feeding 10 fixtures, going through the stone to get to there, and then we're daisy chaining in between, where we would look to surface run these connector cables up against where the water table meets the stone there. I brought just an idea, brought some of the cable in case you care to see just how thick it is or not. And again, it'll be up tight in that area. It's basically little cleats that we've been told from the lighting manufacturer that we can get like an exterior grade double-sided tape that will hold those cleats and should hold all of that into place. So that'll eliminate any sort of stone penetration at that point. So outside of drilling through the wall to get the cable out there, and then the mounting of the light fixtures themselves, that would be the extent of the stone damage, or, you know, holes that we're going to put in the stone that's been a concern. I don't know if we want to address questions on lighting first, or we want to jump right to the windows.
Any questions on the lighting?
Good.
Nope. Lighting looks good.
Okay.
All right. So the sheet up before that one, 7.2. So this is the windows that have been approved, or the Pella series. We've been working with Pella and the installation contractor on just how we want to do this, what the detailing wants to be, and everything along those lines. I don't know if you guys have a printout of this, but we have basically seven reasons and concerns from both Pella and the contractors installing, basically expressing a concern about trying to reuse the existing metal 3/4 round trim. We've been able to get Pella to actually do a custom order trim that will match the profile of that existing, but will also be able to fit into their window frame unit. What that allows is for us to get the jambs and everything tighter to that stone, which is what we're trying for, so we have more visible light as opposed to more frame. So it just, if I go through the list here, part of the concern is that if we have different installation details, we keep this existing trim, we don't have this trim, that you're going to get an inconsistent installation. Because some of these don't have trim, as we've discussed before. Some of these have wood brick mold trims that we would replace and put something that's more historically accurate. So just, there was a concern about, yeah, this window's going to be installed nicely. This window beside it is a new window. It's not going to be installed as nicely, because now we're dealing with just more unknowns. And keeping in mind with the unknowns, because the trim's a special order, you kind of want to just order it once and get a run that we need. So if you don't know if the trim's going to last, the existing trim, until you take it off, it's, you know, again, more of an unknown. Do you just order for everything and then end up having 6 windows worth of trim that you just paid extra for? Or do you not have enough and then have to wait and get that to come back in, which kind of leads to installation time. Ideally, we want to scaffold all the way around this, get the windows out, put them in, get out of the way, in order to minimize just the inconvenience and everything, having the knowns. This is they're coming out, we've got the trim and everything, just it's going to make it quicker, as opposed to, oh, we've run into this, we're a little worried about it, let's talk about it, all the while the scaffolding's sitting up in everybody's way. Those are the main things. I mean, there's an installer's concerned about, justifiably, hey, you know, this trim, we don't know about it, we take it out, we put it back in, it falls for some reason, it fails within 6 months. Who's that on? Is that on him? Is that on? So, anyhow, we left it at, we needed to come back and kind of discuss the details once we got more into it, and that is what I've been hearing from, again, the people that are dealing with this way more direct than myself.
Okay. Any questions?
I guess I should add that the 2 original windows have a full trim on both of them, so we'll paint those, we'll keep those. So you'll still have 2 openings that are the original 1/4 inch divided light with the metal trim. That'll all be, you know, painted and made to look pretty. So.
Yes.
Dave, I would really like to hear your expertise on the aesthetics and the compatibility, because I don't feel qualified to address it.
I really wish I could fill in something. I'm unfamiliar with the metal. I was intrigued, probably as most people, with the metal trim that's on the windows. every period of building in our town seems to have a different era of that closure material. Staff bead, they're called, brick mold, they're sometimes called. There are a bunch of different closures between the wood frame and the stone or brick. And they seem to date buildings. And one of the things that you see mostly from work that was done in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s is that was completely obliterated. It was all driven, just torn off and gotten rid of. This applicant, I think, is making the most consistent and pointed effort to maintain a unique to the town trim. I wonder, if I have a wonder, it's how long these windows will last. These things don't have great life expectancy, the replacement windows, but we're hoping that this does. It's the heartening part of this is that we have someone that's making an attempt to follow through on a commitment that he made to us, and that they are saving a couple of windows that at this moment don't seem to be questionable, so that we will, at least for the course of our generation anyway, know what it's supposed to look like. But this building is unique. We worry about holes in it. It's disappointing to see what our forebears have allowed to have happen to some of the stonework on this building.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely areas that are rough.
And pardon, the commission is a little bit jealous of what happens to the building, because it's an iconic and, seemingly solidly built building.
Well, yeah, this one, I mean, I don't know if you've seen any of the actual details of the original, but it's all, non-combustible construction, which for that time was pretty impressive, with steel and, there's like brick vaults going on in there to support the floor, and
Even the roof is non-combustible.
yeah, I mean, it's a fortress. It's not going anywhere.
I did have a question. Tell me again what these new three-quarter round molds are made of.
They would be made of the aluminum, basically
Oh, it's the
the same material as the cladding
Okay.
on the exterior
Okay.
frame.
Fine, we know what aluminum will do. It's not going to act in some weird way.
It's not going to work.
Act in some weird way that like a composite material might act. So that's fine.
Oh, Pella's going to come and take pictures of this, so they're going to want to make it look pretty.
Yeah.
All right, any further questions for Robert? All right, thank you very much. Okay, so we've gone through all the items that didn't need to be pulled aside. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve those, but if anybody would like to pull one because they're intending to vote negatively, now would be the time to speak up. No? Okay, a motion then it would be welcome.
Do we have particular stipulations for any of them?
So it looks like on 55 Gate Street, there was a stipulation to have the conduit match the existing siding of the house. And 40 Court Street, we had a stipulation that they would need to screen the condenser, and that Nick and myself can reach out to the applicant with potential screening options for that.
And number 2 is it still being postponed?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is for 1 to 40.
And,
I mean, 1 to 9.
and did anyone else
Except
have
for a
any
couple of
other
others.
stipulations that you might want to include on any of those other admin approvals? I didn't have anything else written down. Okay.
No, so yeah, so review, it's 1, 3, 4, 5,
No, sorry, 6.
6, not 5, 8, and 9.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I move that we accept all the administrative approvals for those with the stipulations.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call vote. Rich, I'm going to start with you.
Aye.
Johanna?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Karen, I'm going to call on you because it seems John has
Aye.
not joined us.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And the chair votes aye.
Okay. We have 2 other admin approvals that were pulled out. So let's go with the number 5 first. That's 85 Daniel Street. Essentially, the application is for several changes to a previously approved design on that building. And I think we have someone in the audience who might be able to speak to those changes a little bit better. If you want to come on up.
Hello, Richard Desjardins from McHenry Architecture, representing the applicant for 85 Daniel Street. If you go to page 2, These are the previously approved elevations and a perspective of the areas that we are now altering. Essentially, what we are doing is changing the entrance point through a man door. Instead of going directly into the garage, we're going into the second or the first floor. So if you go to the next sheet, you will see what we're proposing here. Since the first floor is roughly 2 feet plus or minus above grade, we had to provide a set of stairs in the landing to give access into this door. And along with that, we enlarged the overhangs to get you into the building. The deck and the railing are going to be made of the same materials that were previously approved at the public hearing on May 17th of last year. Also, we had a stipulation from that same meeting that we needed to verify that the overhead doors were a smooth texture. We did go back to the product data. The overhead door that we specified is a smooth texture, and we're going with a white finish. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you. Since Karen is the one recused also for number 7, why don't we do number 7 right now as well?
Okay, perfect. All right, and so number 7, the last administrative approval tonight is 114 Maplewood Avenue. And this is, again, for HVAC equipment. So it's the installation of a condenser unit and fencing at the rear of the building. Is there anyone that might want to just quickly kind of discuss this application?
Hi, Ann Whitney again. Basically, we got zoning approval last month, and we're just locating an AC unit, and then existing fencing was like a stockade fence that wrapped around this back corner. That's gotten taken out during the construction, and we're just replacing, as I've shown it on the site plan, with a 6-foot cedar fence, similar to what I've shown in the photograph there. And then the fence will return to the building on the backside to enclose the AC unit. Any questions?
Any questions? No? Okay. And then we do have a request to postpone, so why don't we throw those three together in a motion?
Okay. I move that we approve those 3.
Well, second?
Okay, we'll start with the roll call then. Rich?
Aye.
Karen? Oh, you're sorry, you're the one who's out. Dave?
Yes.
Reagan?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
And Johanna?
Aye.
Okay. Chair votes aye.
Okay, and that will be the end of the administrative approvals.
Okay, thank you very much. So John Wyckoff ended up not joining us online, so both Karen and Johanna will be voting unless otherwise recused for specific reasons. Okay. All right, so our next is a public hearing, new business. This is a request by Michael and Stephanie Fabanio, owners for a property located at 9 Sheaf Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, install garage door, replace basement windows, and move/install HVAC and electrical equipment as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 107 as Lot 713 and lies within the Character District 4 and Historic Districts. And who's here to present?
Hello, I am Michael Fabonio from 9 Chief Street.
Welcome, Michael.
Welcome. Thank you all for your time tonight. So we've been in once before for some approvals for windows, and I think we talked about the meters on the front of the building, so we're formally presenting the request to move the utility meters from the front of the building to the rear of the building. Along with the meters, the piping for the meters are going through plywood on the front of the building, so just looking to replace the front basement windows with period correct 3-pane windows for the basement. And then The roof, we're looking to add 2 skylights to the front roof. That's a street view of the roof from Sheaf Street, so there is really no view of that from the street at all for the skylights. And then while doing the skylights, would replace the roof in kind with black asphalt shingles. On the rear of the roof, we need to add a single vent pipe for a bathroom and a single, I don't know what you'd call them, the hoods for bathroom venting for the air removal, the moisture removal.
For the benefit of the members of the commission, this picture was submitted later. It's not in your original package.
It is, yeah, right. It's
So, and that's the rear from custom.
out of order.
So we are requesting the ability to add a garage to the rear building, which is currently living space. So I know there was a question about where that would be. So that is the image of the garage superimposed, and that would be on the facing the side of Massimo, I guess, restaurant adjacent to Cirrus Bakery. And I think we have a example of, we did a couple of street views that are in there for what the alley view. So it would be, I guess, facing north, if you would. So it would be on the face of that brick outbuilding. And then with regards to HVAC, so I'm proposing to put a heat pump system in for heat and air conditioning. And if you look at the picture there, there's 2 skylights on that. I still call that rear section of building the shed. I'm not sure what it was originally, but so the goal would be to place it virtually between the skylights, laying in the same direction, so that it would be behind the chimney. So from Penn Hollow, it would kind of hide it behind the chimney. So I tried to take some pictures with something of similar size.
Can you blow that up? I don't have that picture. Make it bigger. Thanks.
Is that better?
Thank you. Yeah.
So I took something that was
Thank you.
virtually the same size, and I placed it in 2 different directions. So either going east and west or north and south.
Okay.
So I think, and then also we could do screening as suggested by Isaac.
So the garage door is going to go here.
While we're taking a look at this, I'll just ask quickly, the chimney that will be hidden behind?
Yep.
Is it your chimney or
Yes.
the building next door?
Yeah, so Cirrus has a chimney that in the pictures kind of, if you're in the right position, you can barely see my chimney, but that is in my building.
That's yours, okay.
So it's on the abutting wall between the 2 buildings, so.
Any questions while we're passing this?
If you don't mind, Madam Chairman, can you walk me through the installation of the garage door in the end of the brick shed?
Okay. So ultimately, it will have to be engineered, but I wanted HTC approval first. But I talked to a mason, so they would, he said it was a pretty simple application because it's a gable end for the wall. So I think there's dimensions on the sheet. It's, I think, 7.6 by 8.6, is it?
7 by 8.6.
So so there would be I'm lost for words on what they call the angle iron that they use above the door, so they put the angle in, and then they can basically remove the bricks, and, any brick above the door is now held
But
by.
in the image that you provided us, there's the door and the brick.
Yep.
Where's the metal angle iron go?
So it would be right above the top of that door. It's literally like half-inch steel.
No, that's just not, that's a dream of yours, maybe, but that you need a structural element there. It's got to have it, typically they go about, on a door like that, 6 inches.
Oh, so no, it's angle iron, so it's not a single piece
So
of
you're
steel.
proposing to take the brick down and put the metal in and then relay the brick?
No. So they literally slide the angle in before they take the wall down, and the angle extends over the sides of where the bricks will carry that, and then they take the bricks out.
And the bricks on the sides,
Those will-
you just going to saw them?
So, yeah, I think he just cuts them straight down and then removes them out.
Thank you.
I believe Rich has his hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little concerned about the HVAC unit going on the roof there. I think that's a little tall. I know we're trying to hide it from the alleyway so it wouldn't be visible if you were standing out on is it Penn Hollow there. But I'm concerned that's a little tall, and I'm concerned there's not another location for that, possibly on the side. I just think that would be difficult to screen up there. But I don't know if that could come back for administrative approval. My concern.
So the screening, I have images on my phone, but if you look out my windows across, I'm not sure if it's Massimo or the other one, but they basically have what looks like an upper deck area with railing, and all of their condensers and hood fans and everything are above that. So, I mean, it would be, pretty similar look if we started at the chimney and built a screen there. I think it would be pretty limited view from Penn Hollow because it would be a narrow view. Obviously, the people opposite that have the same type of setup would be able to see it more clearly because it would be a flatter face on that side. But it could certainly be screened to have it not look like a heat pump.
And how are you thinking of screening it?
So I think there's some examples of different screen types, but if planning has something in particular that they generally recommend for that, my thought would be to paint it black to match the windows and the trim of the building.
Other questions?
Maybe you can help me on this one, Isaac. Is there any building restrictions or zoning restrictions on how much space you need for the garage? It's a very narrow
Yeah, I would just
alley,
need
and
to
if they're gonna
double
put
check
anything
on.
big into that.
Yeah, I'd have to
I don't
double
know how
check
they're
on that
gonna
exact zone, and I can definitely reach out to Nick and we can review that and just make sure that by zoning it's good to go before we move too much more forward with it.
Yeah, it's a tight turning.
Yeah. Speaking
Hey,
of which, I
Isaac?
do see that Nick does have his hand up for a question. It looks like.
You're going to let him?
Yes.
Gonna let him. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nick.
Yes.
Okay. That's a good question, Dan. And there is no requirement for a certain setback for that garage, but obviously it needs to work. So you would normally need at least 20 to 25 feet in front of that garage to be able to make the swing to get in. So I would like to look at that, and I think Commissioner Adams' questions about the proposed garage door are good. Sorry if I'm not coming in that clearly. I think it makes sense, supporting Commissioner Laidlock as well, that maybe in this case, the HVAC unit come back for administrative approval so we can get a better sense of whether that's the most appropriate location and what screening actually makes sense in that location, and get better details on the framing system around that garage door. So I'll just offer that up.
Yeah, I'm asking the HDC for approval on the aesthetic appearance of the door. Obviously, I have to go through the building department with an engineer, within, designed plans that get approved. So it was just the concept of the door there that I was looking for.
Yes,
I
Reagan?
was just say, I'm fine with the concept of the door there and the general design that you've presented, but I would like to stipulate that it would be made out of wood.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
okay? Okay. And it may have to be custom made, but it's so right there in front of your face for everyone to see. So I would think that, wood construction would be
Yeah.
most appropriate.
I can assure you it'll look better than the trash that the restaurants next door keep throwing in front of my proposed garage door.
Right. Okay.
Other questions? I have a question also about the construction of the door. This is not an overhead lifting door. These are going to be opening doors?
No, it'd be a garage door that goes
It is a garage door that goes
inside
out.
the building.
Okay. I have concerns about the aesthetic of this, primarily the proportion of the door to what's left on either side of the door, which, according to my calculations, is a foot on either side. Because
Roughly.
it says, because the dimensions say 10.6, and then the door is 8.6, so that is
Yep.
not, it seems to me that we're crowding something rather big into something very, very small. So I have some concerns about that. Any questions or concerns about the window or any other?
I will just go back to say that I was looking at this thinking it was not an overhead door, but was an actual swinging door, which may be difficult to pull off in that tight space, but also think that would, I'm not sure that an overhead door would look all that appropriate in this location.
So I think if you go down further, you'll see this has been done on
Yeah.
Custom Way at 17
Okay.
Sheep Street here. So very, very, very similar situation.
So are you talking
Yeah.
about the wooden?
Yeah, the
wooden
wooden
extension.
addition on the back with the garage door. So
Okay.
it would be very similar to that setup that is currently there.
That is a modern addition, is it
Yeah.
not?
It's a
I think
modern
it's
addition.
a little bit
And it's a
different.
modern garage door that naturally rolls up. I'm not sure how the door you picked, which I like. is
That's a
gonna work,
roll-up
though.
door. Yeah, there's no way to have them open.
Yeah, logistically, there's
Yeah,
no way
it
you're
would be-
going
it
to
would be
get the car in
impossible
if
to-
you do the swinging
Yeah.
door.
to do that, so. And not to continue to beat up the alley, but having a door there would be far better than what gets piled up there now, because it just basically always has trash or milk crates or something thrown in that area, so I can appreciate your concern with the width of the door in the frame, but I think that in the end, it's going to be better looking from Penn Hollow than what we're seeing in that alley now.
And you're intending to actually use this as a garage, so it needs to be that wide,
Yeah,
as
that's,
opposed to just using it as a storage space and you just want a big
Yeah,
door
there's-
to be able to get in and out of.
as we all know, there's no parking in Portsmouth, so.
I also have concerns with the unit on top of this peaked building. I mean, it seems odd to me that this is where you would locate it. We see a lot of these things on roofs, but they tend to be flat, or they tend to be on they're not usually sitting right up on the top of the peak of a roof, if I'm reading your photographs correctly.
Yeah, so it's what you'd consider a shed dormer roof, and that's why I proposed to put it behind the chimney, because the chimney is probably 8 feet tall at that point, so it would be virtually behind the chimney from Penn Hollow. It would just be somebody on the opposite side of Custom Way that would see the
And-
face of it.
I see you, Ricky. And did you choose this location because it's the easiest in terms of the mechanicals and getting it installed and running the lines?
So
Or is there nowhere else on the property to put the heat pump?
So the lines, the HVAC person had suggested it be against the building, but they do make quite a bit of noise, and that's a bedroom, so it's always advised not to have your heat pump against a bedroom wall. So it's virtually been moved out behind the chimney to get the spot that would be, make it most obscure from Penn Hollow. The yard is small, and there's windows in the yard on both sides, 11 sheaf and on 9 sheaf, and it's my wife's listening, but she thinks it's going to be her dog play area, but it, ultimately it may need to be a spot for a small car to park. So putting it on the side of the brick building would eliminate any possibility of using that area to park a car.
I guess to follow up on your question, so do they build like a special stand for it that will?
Yeah, so we'd have to have
match
a
the-
custom stand built to follow the pitch of the roof, so
Yeah.
it would sit level. And on the top side, it would be, maybe 3 or 4 inches off of the roof. And then the opposite side, whatever the
Yeah,
angle is
whatever the drop is. Okay.
to meet it. So it would, I don't disagree that it's just a tough spot to do it. And, the other option was not to have air conditioning and put AC units in all the windows, which, isn't appealing inside or outside. So, just trying to find a spot that may work. It would be nice if they built side-by-side units that would do that, but they seem to all be, standing units at this point for that type of design.
All right, so Dan, yes.
One last, you say it's blocked from Penn Hollow by the chimney, but the view was that little street Custom Lane or something like that?
Yeah, so
That's where it's going to be quite visible.
Yeah, from
But that's where you're going to have the
screening.
screening.
So
right.
the screening would basically start at the chimney and just come out around the front of it. So there wouldn't be any view from the south because of the buildings. So if you came, the chimney should block it pretty much from Penn Hollow.
Yep.
And then if you came down Custom Way, there'd be a screen on the front of that. But I don't know, from the pictures, you can kind of see how it would look. I just, like I said, I cut something diameter to be the same size so that you could have some idea of how much space it would take up.
All right, so any other questions? All right, so in this application, we have basement window, electric meters, skylights, the new roof, and then the semi-controversial things, I guess, the garage door and the heat pump. Yes,
Nick has his hand up.
Nick has his hand up.
Nick?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know, I feel like that rooftop location is definitely challenging to screen. I think everybody's realizing that. I believe it's going to have to be at least 18 inches off the roof for snow loads, and the unit's about 3 feet tall. So you've got a structure that's 4.5 to 5 feet by the time you screen it. So it's going to be a pretty big box up there. And again, I would just encourage, given this is a work session / public hearing, that maybe this get pulled out and we can work with the applicant to come back in the first meeting in March with something a little more definitive that might be more appropriate, but at least understandable in respect to the condenser location. And I'd do the same on the door if that was helpful, but I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, that was my suggestion, that we wait until you've ascertained that there's the possibility of putting the door there before we go too much further on that.
So what, in which regard, with regards to building permits?
Whatever, Nick, has to be approved so that we know the applicant can actually put a door here.
The structural needs.
But maybe, all I'm suggesting is that the commission, should you move forward, I think this was listed as a work session / public hearing. If you're comfortable with most components tonight, you can vote that. We bifurcate the application or stipulate that these 1 or 2 items come back for administrative approval. He'd still be able to pursue his building permit for the items of which you approve, and the building department would hold back the condenser and perhaps the garage door until you approve that administrative approval next month.
Could I ask, so what do I need to provide for I understand the rooftop unit, the concern there, but what would you be looking for with regards to the garage door? Because that's what it's going to look like.
I think 2 or 3 issues have been raised. One is, do you have the turning radius required in order to have the door there? Mr. Adams has raised concerns about the structural issues, and if we could have a little more detail on how the last thing we want is to have that wall collapse. So if we could have a little more information on that. And then,
How it's going to work?
Being a rising door, whatever they're called, overhead door. Anyway, it actually has to be completely inside of the building because it can't rise in the region of the brick wall. And I'm going to guess that brick wall, at least
8 inches.
At least 8 inches thick, 2 courses of brick. So it's going to be fully inside of that. Madam Chairman, just for a moment, suggest that I see a bunch of issues here that I think should be formally addressed. One is clearly, as Mr. Cracknell alluded to, the chosen location for the AC unit is even at best a poor candidate for screening. I can't think of the screening that one would provide that makes any sense at all, perched 3 feet off a roof. It seems like a non-starter to me. The guy's got a couple of brick masonry walls that he could mount the thing on if he's bound and determined to have this, and he should use that rather than hanging it in space. I don't see anything that tells me where the skylights are on the proposed skylights at all. Height off the eave or spacing side to side. I know that very few people are going to see them, but they should be in a place that makes some sort of architectural sense. And the garage door, as tight as that area is, there's no actual reason why he can't have a garage door, even if he can't put his car in it. It's not a requirement. But on the other hand, I'm no way going to support this garage door. Between the installation of the angle iron, the sawing of the masonry opening, the fact that the building isn't flat, level, or square, and along with the brickwork that he has to cut through a portion of the foundation to be able to utilize the door as a garage. I think that it puts the building itself in peril. And there's a nice little early 19th century shed that we will lose because we were being enthusiastic about an applicant. I'm not going to support any of it now, and probably the door never.
so as Nick said, this is a work session / public hearing. You could take the option, I believe, of we can close the work session, move to a public hearing, and you can specifically ask for the things that you'd like to move ahead and that the commission can support, and then you could come back with more information, more details on things that perhaps are more problematic. What would you like to do?
So the only thing I understand the concern with the heat pump, and I'll talk to the HVAC guy and see if, what the cost difference is if you did 2 units and they were smaller and they could go on the side of the shed. Short of spending the money to have an engineer design the garage door so that you feel comfortable that it's not going to affect the building, I don't think that's fair that I have to have an engineer design it and say that it's safe and then have Dave say that he doesn't support it because it's not safe. So I guess my concern is aesthetically, does the garage door work? And I should use an engineer that has to design it. And obviously, if he can't design it, to make sure that the structure is safe and that it's actually usable, then I'm not going to spend the money to put in a garage door because he tells me it's impossible. So I guess that's my only hang-up is that we're concerned about structural issues which may not even get permitted if an engineer doesn't provide a design to the building inspector that he approves. So I think we're stuck between looks and structure. And I'm not here for structure. I'm just here to say I'd like to move forward and see if I can have an engineer design this to provide structural, a structure that would manage this garage door. But again, this is a gable wall, so there is no load on that wall. The side walls carry all the load. The roof trusses run up the slope of the hill of the roof. So I guess I'd ask if an engineer says it's good and inspection says they approve it, that you guys are good with the appearance of the door.
Yes,
I think then in that case, what Nick is suggesting is, for me, it would be acceptable. Again, like you were saying, just approve the aesthetic of the door, but asked for him to come back for administrative approval, just to show us more details once you get them from your structural engineer and once you get the approval from the city to make sure. 'Cause
With the contingency that you guys see it before it gets approved.
Exactly. That before you build it, you bring back your details and the specifications for the exact door and all of those things. I'm okay with moving forward to say I am fine with the idea of a garage door in this location, so.
Yeah, that's really just what I'm looking for, because I don't want to spend the money, because an engineer is
Right.
going to be expensive to have
Obviously,
you guys say, we
if
don't
you're-
like it.
Sure, and if you get to the point where somebody comes in, or even the city, that says, we don't think that you can put in a giant doorway here, then you're not going to do it.
Right. Yeah, and I've talked to Shanti about it, so I showed him the pictures, and he didn't freak out about it at any level. But I mentioned to him as well, I need an engineer to design it, to bring it to permitting before I could do anything, so.
Well, since we're still in work session, I have to say that I have reservations about turning a shed into a garage and the size of the door. So we're not voting, but you wanted the temperature of the
Sure.
commission, so I'm giving you my thoughts. Anybody else want to share anything? Okay, so we're still in work session, right?
And we still need to hear from the public.
Yeah, we should still hear from the public. Anybody in the public wishing to make comment in this work session? No? Okay, we're going to close the work session and move into a public hearing. So the question now is exactly what are you requesting approval for during the public hearing?
So, based on the conversation, the items that I'd like to hear on are the everything with the exception of the heat pump location, in the stipulation that if the door is approved aesthetically, it's going to have to come back before you once it's designed, and the building inspector has deemed it reasonable, so that you could see the, how the structure is going to be managed from a.
Okay, so the request is to approve the basement windows, the electric meters, the 2 skylights, which, David, do you want an admin approval for exact location?
That would
Okay.
be appropriate, yes. Thank you.
All right. The new roofing, the venting from the bathroom, if I recall.
Yes.
So those are the items that you would like approval for tonight, with the stipulation that the location of the skylights come back for approval, admin approval, and then the garage door and the heat pump will not be included in the request for tonight's approval.
Again, I just don't know what you want me to give you on the garage door.
I think he's asking for the location and sort of idea of the garage door, the aesthetic of the garage door. With
Okay. So the only thing that you're not requesting for approval tonight is the heat pump?
That's accurate.
Okay. I think that gave enough information for someone to make a motion, or not?
I do just want to
Yes.
say one thing. I do believe that there was a stipulation for the garage doors coming back, that the applicant just provides the details after the building department has blessed them. So I'll make that included in the language.
Yeah, so we're approving just the aesthetics and the location, but he has a lot more hurdles to jump through or over.
All right. Before the motion, I should say, anyone from the public wishing to speak to this public hearing? No, we will close the public hearing. And a motion, please.
I'll move that we approve this application as presented, as he has presented, which does not include the heat pump and only includes the sort of idea of the garage door, the location and the aesthetic, and the stipulation that if he moves forward with a garage door, all details and specifications be brought to us, at least through administrative approval.
And administrative approval for the skylight dimensions
Yes.
and exact
And
location as well.
Yes.
Second that?
Johanna seconds, okay.
I will just say that this has conservation and enhancement of property values. I think, first of all, we're all going to be very excited to see all of the electrical meters and everything go off the front of that building. And we have in relation to historic and architectural value of the existing structure. Actually, scratch that. I'm going to go with compatibility of design with surrounding properties.
We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Rich.
Aye.
Karen?
I'm recused.
Right. Dave?
Opposed?
Johanna?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
And the chair votes no.
It's 4
to 2. So it passes.
That's math.
Four is what you need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, so public hearings, old business. First is a request to postpone petition of 43 Holmes Court LLC, owner for property located at 43 Holmes Court, wherein permission is requested to allow the demolition of the existing home and construction of a new home. I'm going to stop right there because this has been requested. The applicant has informally requested this be withdrawn, but didn't get the paperwork in. And because this has dragged on for quite some time, it's a major construction. We wanted to be sure that the rest of the neighbors would be notified again when this is ready to actually move forward. But since it's worded as a request to postpone, we need to deny it. If that's,
I move that we deny the request to postpone for public hearing A.
Second.
and we'll do a roll call vote. Rich?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
Dan, sorry. Johanna? Okay, and I vote aye. All right, so that takes us to Seacoast Management Consulting LLC, owner for property located at 3 Walton Alley, wherein permission is requested to allow renovations to an existing structure, replace bulkhead, replace storm windows and stairs as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property shown on Assessor Map 103 as Lot 20 and lies within the General Residence B and Historic Districts. Dave has recused himself, and Karen, are you also?
I'm okay.
You're okay, okay. Who's here to present?
Lisa Messina, owner of 3 Walton Alley.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
So you'd like to run through the application as it stands right now, because I know there's been some changes since our previous meetings.
Yes. So the windows, the rear kitchen windows we discussed last time, I had requested a picture window that was 6x4, and the board wanted to see that broken into 2 windows with a mullion between them. So I've broken that up, and I've actually gone smaller with the window as well, making it a 5x4, keeping it in line with the door that's already existing, the rear door, and with the window where it is now.
Sorry, a little technical glitch. My apologies, everyone. We'll get that back into view. Just a second. Okay. So there we are.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So there's the diagram of it there. The windows being broken into 2, and the 5x4 window all together. It's 27 and 3/4 or something, and broken up. Then the staircase, you had wanted to see a drawing of how I wanted them to come out instead of alongside the house. And I have those just coming straight out into the yard. They would be wood with a wood railing that stays with the style of the home. The bulkhead doors are there to the left. Those are rotting. You can see the rot there on the bulkhead doors and leaking. So those we would just want to rebuild out of Tyvek and paint them, but use the same hardware that's seen there, so it would look the same. It would just be built out of a composite material due to weather conditions in New England. And so that's just to repair that, and to replace it. It would probably be painted green as the one right there that you see there. That's the AC unit in the corner there. That would be, would have the screen of the little spruce, dwarf spruce trees are in front of that. These are the Anderson windows. They're wood interior and vinyl outside, but they're individual lights, ELO glass, and wood grills on the inside and outside.
So you're
Exterior
proposing
grills.
2 double hung windows there. They're not.
Yes, 2 double hung.
Okay, they're not casements or anything.
Yes, 6/6 colonial.
I'm just going to make it clear here in case anybody who sees this application freaks out, that the Anderson 400 windows are not vinyl clad? Because we don't
No, they're
accept vinyl, but it's listed on here that it's covered with vinyl. It's a Fibrex material, so.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, they're very beautiful windows. This is showing the staircase and the pipes coming out of the house. We've had a new gas furnace put in, and the plumber had to vent that out right there. So we'd like to turn the stairs straight into the yard as opposed to running down right in front of the pipes there. They are also in need of repair as well, to be removed and replaced. Just a picture of a wood staircase coming down and what it would essentially be like. The door would be there, there'd be a small area to the right of the door, the measurements are on the drawing, and there would be screening around the bottom, a lot of screening around the bottom. Okay. These are the current storm windows that are, some of them are broken. I took a picture of the glass, I can't actually see it from here, but they're pretty old and they're just double hung. The double track, storm windows, and I'd like to replace those with a low E-glass for efficiency, and I think that, and they're just also, they don't work very well. They're kind of not square inside the window. And those I would replace with either a Larson or an Allied double track window, and I think the dimensions on those, they would protrude probably, I think it's 1 1/8 to 1 1/2 maximum protrusion in the windows on the storms. Any questions?
Better than the aluminums.
Questions? Dan?
With your new furnace, you're moving the vents over, and that'll
No.
give you room for the air conditioning? Or the heat pump?
No, the air conditioning would be far enough away from it's located far enough away that it's safe per code.
The current picture has the vents right on the corner, right?
That, I think, that's a different vent. That's not the gas vent. I think the gas vent is closer to
Yeah.
I believe it's right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
The AC unit, we didn't discuss that. I talked to Dana Toby about that, the plumbing inspector, and he looked through the specs of the AC unit, and it cannot go under the stairs. The elevation of the house is just not tall enough with the door to put it under the stairs. So I'm still requesting to put it in that right corner right there. I think it's the furthest from the homes and adjacent to my house. And I think it's also less visible than any other spot in the house. And on the left side of the house, there's only one other option is to the left of the bulkheads, and there is a gas meter there and some piping as well. So,
Any other questions online? Yes, Karen?
Do you have any specs on the stairs, the balusters that you were planning on using, or?
no, I did include all the measurements, the width of the stairs. It would be your basic woods. There's some measurements there on how wide the stairs are. And I think there's 5 of them, I think, total there. They'd be to code, wood stairs to code. I'd have them finished nicely.
I guess we usually ask for the design of what the railings and the balusters and everything will look like. We can.
Well, I did want to stick with what I had originally said, that I would just replace what's there with the lattice, and I can still do that. But you wanted to see what that would look like coming out straight.
Oh, so you're going to just stick with the lattice?
Just showing
going
what
all
the
way
stairs
down?
look like coming out straight. Yes, and then there's a rail at the lattice sides.
Oh, okay.
Or it could be wood rails. I'm happy to, whatever the board suggests, I'm happy to construct them that way.
I guess we
Trying
don't-
to find pictures of
Yeah.
this style house with the back steps was very difficult. I couldn't find what the style would actually be. I think it's very simple.
I think,
It's just a very simple wood staircase in the back.
square stock posts and balusters is probably
That would be fine.
all you need, and we can probably stipulate that and ask for administrative approval, even if we need to.
Okay. Other questions online?
Rich has his hand up.
Rich, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing with the railing. I was thinking either it could match the other picture provided with the green siding there, or it could come back.
Okay. Any other comments?
I just have one question. I noticed you said you were planning on doing the rear stairs in wood. I do see on the diagram it says PVC painted. Just want to clarify and make sure that you are going to use a wood on that.
I can use the wood. I heard you on the previous person saying that you would prefer wood. Wood
Okay,
is
just
fine.
want to clarify based
I think
on the
my carpenter
submission.
prefers the wood composite, and if you paint it, he says it looks the same, and it's just better, it'll last longer. But I'm fine with keeping them all wood.
Sure. I mean, this is the back of the house. I think we just wanted to know one way or the other.
And square stock is also, I'm fine with that stipulation.
Okay. The only concern I have is the screening. You would probably take very good care of your vegetative screening. However, you may not be there all the time, and you may not be there 10 years from now. So my preference would be to have some sort of
lattice.
and
That's fine.
we have several samples that you can get from Isaac, all of which would be acceptable. And then if you want to put your nice bushes around the edge, that way if anything happens to them, you still have that screening.
That works. That works as well.
Any other questions or concerns anybody has?
I just wanted to ask the placement of the AC. Has that been checked out by zoning ZBA just to make sure that it's fitting within side setbacks and all of that?
It's not within, the setbacks are, I have to get the variance for
Okay.
that, so I did file the
Okay.
application. I tried to call Stephanie today, I think there was something missing, So
Okay.
I'm going to be working with her to get approval for that. I know the neighbor, James Woods next door, is fine with it being there. He's putting up a new fence. I think it's, I don't know if it's 6-foot standard height
So it'll just be
fence.
subject to-
And
So-
he's also putting a garage on on the other side of the fence.
Yes. So we'll
there's a
just
driveway.
stipulate then that, we won't maybe fully, it'll be approved, but we'll
Subject
wait
to.
for the BOA approval as well for that. Okay?
Okay, any other questions before I open it up to the public? All right, anybody in the public wishing to speak to this application? All right, we'll close the public hearing and await a motion.
I'll move that we approve this application with the stipulations that the stairs and railings be made of wood and be of basic square stock, or if you want to do anything different, it just comes back to administrative approval. And that the AC compressor be screened with some sort of lattice screening. What else do we have for
I think that would, and
stipulations? Is that it?
And that the condenser will just be contingent upon BOA approval for
Right.
the location.
Right.
All right,
Second.
This is great.
thank you, Dan. Any other discussion before we hear the findings of fact?
Oh, right. So this has conservation and enhancement of property values and compatibility of design with surrounding properties.
Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. We'll start with Johanna this time.
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And Rich?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Very good.
All right, thank you very
Yay,
much.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on to C, petition of Chatham Portsmouth LLC, Chatham Lodging Trust, owners for property located at 100 High Street, wherein permission is requested to allow the installation of mechanical equipment on the roof of the existing structure as per plans on the file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 118 as Lot 30 and lies within the Character District 5, Downtown Overlay, and Historic Districts. I believe we have someone online for that.
I'm actually not seeing if the applicant is on Zoom, if you could raise your hand for me. Looks like we only have
Okay.
just staff members saying we want to hold on and we could
Yeah.
come back to that one if
Move that we push this to the end of the agenda.
Second.
agenda, just in case.
Okay.
Okay, we will postpone this item until the end of the agenda. All right, that brings us to D, petition of Suzanne. Yes? Wait a second. Maybe?
I think, sorry, I think the applicant has just actually jumped
Oh, okay.
on
Okay.
to the meeting. 1 second, let me just see if I can get them. Okay. Oh, great, okay.
Do we have to lift that redirection, or?
We never actually voted on it.
All right.
You just seconded it and said, okay. So,
All right. Where did you go? All right, Megan, can you hear us? You're currently muted.
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, Megan, if you would
Okay,
introduce
great.
yourself, please?
Yes, hi, I'm Megan Moseley. I represent Dish Wireless, and I'm here to talk about our installation.
Okay. Now, you were with us last month, and we asked you to look into relocating some of these pieces of equipment. If you just want to run through where we ended up with those locations, I think that would move us along.
Yes, absolutely. So what we changed was we moved Alpha and Beta. If you scroll down, this is the updated view right there. Alpha and Beta were moved back as far as they could go. As you see there, Alpha is 13 feet back from High Street and 21 feet back from Garden Way. And then, yeah, it's that top one there, Alpha. And then the one in the corner there is Beta, and that was pushed back 13 feet from High Street and 18 feet from Hanover Street. So I talked to the A&E firm. That is as far back as we can push it without it getting in the way of their signal. So that, if we push it any further back, it will be closer to the other side of the street, as he said to me today. So that is the best location for those, and it should give good signal, but won't be as prominent on the street view. And we also asked for him to add the paint to match on each one, just so you guys are aware that we know that we have to paint it to match the building, so it blends in, so it's less of a view from the street. Excuse me. The only other thing is Gamma. So Gamma couldn't be moved where we talked about last meeting because the signal would actually be blocked. So they did propose to actually attach it to the screen frame in that area. I don't know if that would actually be better or worse in your eyes. We can either keep it as is on the sled mount, or we can mount it to this frame. We could paint it to match so it would blend in. So whatever you suggest, we will go with. But that was our only other option. We couldn't move the whole sled mount.
Okay. Any questions?
So those are the updates.
Questions or concerns? No?
I mean,
Okay.
I appreciate them moving the other two as far back as they could. I'm thinking probably having them mount this on pre-existing equipment is better than adding new equipment. So I think altogether this is a better application than we saw last month. So just appreciate that extra work. Thank you.
That and the application of some screening paint sounds like a dream.
Okay. All right. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment or question on this? All right, we'll close the public hearing, and I await a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept this new design and as presented.
With the one Gamma against the screen?
Yes.
Okay, against the screen. A second?
I'll second.
Okay. Findings of fact?
These are hard.
Something about technology.
There's a technology one in there somewhere.
Architectural.
Did we want to add a stipulation, even though they said they would paint everything, just to have it written down?
It's definitely painted? Okay.
Sure, I'll be okay.
Just to keep it
Okay.
clean.
Are you okay with adding the stipulation that everything be painted? to
Yes,
match?
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's going to, I believe it's going to conserve and enhance the property values. And it's compatible with innovative technologies with the surrounding properties.
Okay, we'll do a vote then. Rich?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Johanna? And chair votes aye.
Fantastic.
Okay, so now, moving on to item D, petition of Susanna Barber and Kimmery Poldrak, owners for property located at 28 Newcastle Avenue, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, new siding, windows, doors, new front porch stairs, and new rear deck, and new construction to an existing structure at a one-story addition over existing rear first floor footprint. As per plans on file in the planning department, said property is shown on Assessor Map 101 as Lot 34 and lies within the Single Residence B and Historic Districts. And who's here today?
Hi, I'm Leah McGavran. I'm the architect
Welcome.
from McGavran Design. We've tried to provide much more material than we did last time. We've tried to give every detail that we could predict you might be asking about. So I hope you find this package more thorough and more to your liking than the last one. If you don't mind, if we could start with the next one. We've tried to document some other similar houses in the area. They really are sort of sprinkled all through town, and once you start seeing them, believe me, you can't stop seeing them. It's interesting. It's a real prototype. We're referring to it as a four-square. It Whether or not this particular house was a Sears house or not, we don't know. My client, Aaron, who's here with us tonight, looked at the Athenaeum and looked at the public library for any record of the house and what it looked like pre-1970, and she could not come up with any images, unfortunately. So when we look at all the images through town and beyond town, even as I drive around the state of New Hampshire, there's a tremendous variety of these types of foursquares. One thing they all have in common is the hip roof and the square shape of the house and generally the proportions of the porch. But in terms of the detailing from there, in particular on the porch, there's tremendous variety. There's lots of different kinds of columns. There's lots of different kinds of piers up to the columns. There are lots of different types of finishes. They do tend to typically be, as you can see from these examples, sort of divided halfway with either band or some definition in change of material. I think these show that fairly well, and these are all in the immediate neighborhood, or not all, sorry. The majority of them are within a block or two. I do have one example that's outside of town, and then there's the older examples of the Sears houses. There are countless number of the foursquares. I picked a screenshot that happened to have 4 in one just to show some of the variety. And if you go on to the next one, really what we're proposing here is an addition at the back, above the 1970s addition, which is shown in green. So when you look at the scale of the massing house and scale and massing of the house, I want to point out that we are not touching the original house in terms of its scale and its massing. There's a large addition that was done at the back in the 1970s, and at the front, the porch, whatever it was originally, was completely enclosed. If you look down, I show the red. In red, I'm showing two things. One is wherever we're proposing a new roof, we're trying to match the pitch of the existing roof. And in terms of the massing of the new roof at the back, we're making it smaller. We're trying to break down the massing so that the original volume of the original house is prominent, and the additions at the back become secondary to the main house. And if you look at the materials, gets quite involved. So if we're ready to delve deep into the materials, I'm ready to go there. If you are, stay on the same sheet because it's all to the right.
Why don't we just take a moment then and ask if anybody has any questions or concerns about the basic massing and style or details of the addition.
I think it's great.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Well, and I forgot to point out, I pointed this out last time, so I'm sure you're aware of it, but in terms of the second floor, what we tried to do, in addition to breaking down the massing, is pull in where the new second floor meets the original second floor so that there's a clear distinction between what is old and what is new. Okay, so materials. What we're trying to do is, to the extent possible, keep all the materials in the front of the house the same as what they are, as what they would have been originally. There were some questions last time we met about the soffit and the fascia, so I've tried to be clear that we'll try and match what I believe to be, without getting up on a 30-foot ladder and measuring it myself, a 1x6 wood fascia board with what I believe to be, again, without getting on the 30-foot ladder myself, about an 18-inch deep soffit or eave, and it appears as though it's all wood plywood at the eave, and we would match that or replace as necessary. It seems to be in relatively good condition, so we will keep everything that we can keep. There is a bed molding around it. We will keep that as well. If we can, we will replace in kind with a wood material if we need to. But our intention is just to paint it, really. And then wherever we're doing something new, the back roof, we intend to match that in its details. The frieze board will not match exactly because the height of the windows is a little bit different. There's a second floor step up at the back, which forces the windows up just a tad, which means the frieze board will be a little bit smaller, but that's in the new addition. Everything in the front addition, in terms of eave, soffit, frieze board, will all stay exactly the same. Hopefully, it'll be no changes at all. Did you have a
Adjusting
question?
the size of the freeze board allows you to keep the roof edge the same on the addition as on the house?
Correct. Yep, all the eave lines will match. Yep. Siding was a clear issue last time because we had that band that was, I got a clear impression it was not looked on favorably. So we removed that, and now it's very much in kind with, in keeping with what you see everywhere. It's well, we're proposing the clapboards and the shingles above, but I will say that since I've submitted these drawings, the builder has been able to uncover more shingles, and we would try to keep more of the shingles if we could. So we would have shingles on top of shingles. We would still, we don't know whether or not there's an original band at the halfway point, but we would like to introduce that if there is not. I would challenge you to find many houses that aren't covered in asbestos siding that are of this style that don't have some sort of differentiation between the two materials.
So you found that, so you've uncovered that it is shingle on both the first and second floor?
Well, actually, I'm not sure we've revealed the shingles up to the second floor, but more at the first floor, there is shingles at that level.
Shingles, okay.
Yep. We would probably still paint them two different colors.
So it wouldn't be what you're proposing here, which is the clapboard on the first floor. You just do shingle.
That's correct. If we continue to find, as the aluminum siding is removed, that it is in good condition.
Yeah, great.
Yep. Where we set back on the second floor in the addition, we are continuing to propose the paneling, but we have found precedent for that in the neighborhood on a house that's almost identical right down the street, where they have a couple bays that have that paneling. So I would argue that that's very appropriate to this style, even though it's at the back of the house anyway. The windows, well, I have a separate sheet for the windows. So, if you have any questions at this point, we could go ahead and talk about the porch, and then we'll talk about the windows. So if you want to go up a sheet, Isaac. Okay. So the porch, I did get down in under the porch to see where there might be some structure, to see if there was any revelations about where the existing columns may have been. The only thing I learned was that there is a set of double Lowley columns that are old and rusting, unfortunately, that need to be replaced, but they're supporting a beam that's halfway down the porch. So if I was to find justification for any existing columns, it would have been probably in that location. I would also argue that if you divide it any other way, if you divide it into fours, you've got then a column both smack in front of the doorway and smack in front of the window. So this would probably be the way they would have done it. In terms of the divisions. We also are still proposing the stone piers with the tapered columns, because again, when you look at these houses, and I have another example of a house on State Street that Aaron just came up with, where it's yet again different. It's solid with shingles all the way around and very, very narrow double tapered columns. So the variety in how the porches were treated seemed to be probably, if this was in fact a Sears house, it may have been one of these things you pick from a catalog and you just choose how to decorate. It may have been as simple as that. I don't know that, but I guess what I'm saying is that if there's any opportunity to have a little bit of fun with this house and be a little bit expressive, they would have done that back then, and I'm suggesting we do that again now. So what we would do is find stones to build the pier that look as close to the foundation as possible. It is a stone, essentially rubble foundation all the way around. We've gone to some stone yards, but we don't have a mason on the project yet, and some of the stone yards aren't up to stock, it being the dead of winter. So we hope to have a sample to bring you, but we do not have that. But we would be happy to come back for administrative approval of what that stone would look like if that is something that you were agreeable with.
I have a question, please.
Yes, Joan.
Yes.
So you're not talking about those stones being a veneer. You're talking about actual whole stone that you would use for the
Well, to be
piers?
honest, I'm not sure it would be practical to build it the way they built it back then. And I don't have a full answer to that because I would really love to get a mason's input. Oftentimes what they do is they cut those stones in half so you can build a concrete, a CMU pier for the columns which ultimately support the roof. And then you attach the half. And believe me, if it were practical to do a real stone pier, I would support of that. I'm a bit of a purist in that sense myself, but A, there's cost, and B, there's structural integrity. And also, geez, I don't know how many masons actually do that anymore, and to get an engineer to approve it. So the answer to your question is likely not. But we would do our darndest to get something that matched and looked as authentic as possible to coordinate it with the foundation. Any other questions on the porch? Oh, one more point. I'll just point out that we plan to do a beadboard ceiling with a natural finish, as the picture indicates. Okay, windows. I first just want to point out that most of the original windows remain exactly in their existing locations. There are a couple locations where we propose changing the existing openings. Oops, sorry. The front stays exactly the same. We're keeping the original front door and side lights. We think they're lovely. All the hardware will stay the same. We have no intention of touching that. They're on the west elevation. You'll see we're removing the basement door, and that's for what we think is a very good reason, because the main entry is really from the garage that's in the 70s edition. And so you park your car there, and then you go through the old basement and up a set of very old stairs, and those stairs are going to be reconstructed, and for very good reason. I don't have a picture of them. For some reason, it didn't occur to me to do that, but trust me, there's head bumping, there's very antiquated stair treads and risers. They're not up to code at all, so we're going to need to reconstruct them. Once we reconstruct them, the landing is no longer at the location of the door, and so that exterior door to the basement no longer makes sense. So we would like to remove that door. The window on the second floor, geez, to get the floor plan to work as we'd like, we're just going to move that 14 inches. And then there's the new entry. We're adding one new opening there so that the bathroom can have a window. And then the 1970s old casements that are currently in the kitchen, we're removing those and replacing those with a new door, which is where the new side porch is.
I have a quick question on the window that you're moving over. Are you just going to retain that same historic window and reuse it?
All the windows are being replaced.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're just talking about the opening.
The opening itself.
Gotcha. Never mind.
Yeah, just so
That's
that
what I thought. I was confused. I thought that there were no historic windows left. So
no,
okay. That makes
no,
sense.
definitely not.
Okay.
They're 70s vinyl.
Yep.
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 And then these other drawings just illustrate that we're really just trying to, we're using the existing window sizes and proportions and mimicking that at the rear of the house so that there's continuity with the addition, and taking the 1970s openings, which are, essentially squares with two casements, and we're reproportioning all of those so that they're more in keeping with the original house. We are proposing at the front of the house to keep, as we can, all the original casing, including the band molding that goes around the windows. You see a picture, I provided a shot of a random window. The sill may need some work, but the casing and the band molding look in okay shape. So our intention is to keep that for the front of the house. We do not intend to repeat that detail at the back of the house for two reasons. One, because the cost of the project is getting exorbitant, and we would like to, so we could save some money by not doing the same detailing at the back windows of the new addition. And also because personally, I feel like it's nice to differentiate the old house from the new house. And I think the more you keep the original details, it accentuates the craftsmanship of the original house, and it makes clear that the older house is new. So that is our intention with the windows. And they're all, as we spoke about last time, they're Marvin Elevate windows. Any questions about that? And I would, that really kind of closes what I have to share with you. If there are any details that I've missed, we would be happy to address them. I did bring a sample of the mahogany railing that we would be using on the porch. I specify solid cedar posts for the front porch and the side porch. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions from there.
Okay. Any questions?
Well, it's not a question per se, but I just want to congratulate you. I think your design is fantastic, and I'm particularly happy because I walk by there almost every day.
Oh, good.
So I'm very happy that you've upcycled it with so much thought. And I am reassured too that you seem to be very cognizant about the realism that you can lose if you go with a veneer. Because that's the only thing that concerns me. I've seen, and I know how expensive this is, I've seen really expensive projects where they kind of fall down when it comes to the masonry. So I think you're going to make some really good choices there too. Really,
Thank you. I hope so.
congrats.
It also, I agree, you've done a nice job. It also does a nice job for the neighborhood because most of the houses around it have been updated. Everybody's gotten rid of the asbestos, and so it's really going to do a lot for the neighborhood too.
Else? I was a little concerned about the size of the porch on the side relative to the primary entrance. And while I understand that most people don't use their primary entrance as their entrance, architecturally it is the primary entrance. I was not really clear from your drawings how the size differential between these. Could you speak perhaps to that?
Well, I could speak to it by looking up the dimensions, if that's what you're.
Which I wasn't, maybe I just missed them. So.
Yeah. Let me just make sure that I do have them.
Okay.
It's 10 by essentially 8. And you know what that actually dimension is actually derived from? It's actually derived from the porch that's there now. It's for no particular reason, it was that dimension slid over. It makes for a nice entry. Proportionally, it seemed to work. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what more to say about that.
So
I think it looks nice.
So the front
basically.
porch was about 8 feet deep, and that's how this came to be 8 feet deep.
No, the porch that is on the 1970s edition at the back, which is being removed. These are essentially those dimensions.
Okay.
The original porch. Yeah, I'm sorry, my apologies. I tend not to dimension what's already existing, but that is probably about 8 by the width of the house, which is 24 feet. So this is 8 by 10.
And the porch that is off the back, just looking at the renderings, it just seems like a very simple balustered, very, very simple. Okay. And I think we touched briefly last time on the chimney that is being repurposed, and therefore the lower part needs to stay, but the upper part is being removed.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Rich? Just checking to be sure you're still there.
Yep, still here.
Okay.
No, I think this is an excellent project. I think this is a great, like Commissioner Brown and said earlier, this is a great addition to that neighborhood. I grew up learning how to ride my bike on that path, and I know a lot of people use that to walk their dogs, and a lot of high traffic area for pedestrians. So I'm very excited about this project.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to address what you said, Margot, which is, I'm sure you've seen the house. You know, it's got this very sweeping, long, rectangular lot, and you know, the side drive, garage side is as impressive as the front, and I think that I personally think that entranceway is very fitting.
All right, then. I'll open this up to the public. Anyone wanting to make a comment on this project? No? Okay, we will close the public hearing then, and I await a motion.
I move that we approve this project as presented. I know we have a few stipulations. One of the stipulations I'd like to add is that you'll come back to us with the final plan for whatever cladding you use. So as you're uncovering everything, you know, whether or not you want to use put a band in there or everything is shingled, just come back to us and let us know what that actual thing is. Because right now you've got the clapboard in here, and I know that I'm glad that you're doing more investigation. So I'd love to see all the other things that you uncover. And were there any other stipulations that?
I'd like to stipulate that the stone for the porch posts.
Yes.
Be a natural stone, whether it be whole or segmented, but natural stone, at least at this moment.
Yes, and natural stone that also would come back for administrative approval with the final sort of design and specifications and maybe even a sample or something.
Smallish sample.
Yeah. not an entire post. Okay. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. I think so.
Second.
Thank you, Dan.
This preserves the integrity of the district and has relation to historic and architectural value of the existing structure.
Okay, we'll start with Rich as our vote.
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Johanna?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
There's a lot going on in this. So as the representative of the project, I'd just like to be sure that you convey with everybody involved, owners, subcontractors, vendors, that these are the approved drawings.
Yes, I know where you're coming from, yes.
Okay, so any deviations, please, if you're unsure, come back to Isaac or Nick to be sure that you don't need to come in for follow-up approval.
You bet, yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
This might be of some use to you.
Oh, is this a Mason?
Yeah. Yeah, he has on-site sensitivity.
Okay, great.
Words a little difficult to get a hold of.
Aren't they all?
Okay, onward, unless we need a break.
No.
No.
No? Okay.
We're hanging on
We're
over
very
here.
close, we're very close. Okay. Petition, okay, we're up to E, right? Petition of Strawberry Bank, Inc., owner for property located at 65 Washington Street, 63 Puddle Lane, wherein permission is requested to allow renovations to an existing structure, remove and replace siding, windows, add new rear door to match existing front door, and replace chimney, all per plans on the file in Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 104, Lot 7, and lies within the Mixed Research Office and Historic Districts. And who is he? Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Please present your team.
Yes, Rodney Rowland, Director of Facilities and Environmental Sustainability for Strawberry Bank.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Alex Martin. I'm the archaeologist at Strawberry Bank.
Hello, everyone. John Snitzler, contractor for Strawberry Bank.
Welcome.
We're here this evening with a really exciting and unique project for Strawberry Bank. The Sherburne House is the second oldest structure in the city of Portsmouth. It's Strawberry Bank's only opportunity to teach our visitors about the first period of occupation of European settlement. And so with that in mind, we're really here to make subtle changes to the house that will show what a unique structure from this early period, 1695, looked like. The building was restored by Strawberry Bank in 1968. There were some assumptions made that we believe were incorrect at the time, so we're going to kind of unravel some of those as part of this process. Sadly, the building is negatively impacted by groundwater intrusion due to increases in sea level, so we're having to deal with those as well. So that's kind of my introduction. I'll throw it over to Alex.
You could point out where it is in the northeast corner of the museum grounds. And if you scroll down a little bit, it's the first period brown house in the corner there. So the first change that we are wanting to make is an update to the windows. So the windows are as they were interpreted in the 1960s. They have multiple colored panes of glass and a long coral shape of the diamond panes. And we have found from recent archaeological excavations close to the house enough window glass to reconstruct some of those panes and measure that, in fact, in 1695, in this household anyway, they were using square corals, so we'll have the correct shape, and that they were only using a single color of green glass. So we'll use that shape. And if you scroll down a little bit, there's what the windows look like today. You can see subtly how there's both clear and then colored purple and green glass, which is incorrect, and just that long diamond shape. If you scroll down a little more, you'll see a partial reconstructed piece there in that square coral shape. And then we included some other examples here of 17th century square and diamond coral panes or lights, just to show that we want to give the glass artist a little more latitude with filling in the shapes of the panes. If you look at how the windows are today, every single window light is identical, so the corners all match. Which, based on the panes that we have found in the archaeological site, isn't necessarily the case. So we just have some other examples there of how the glass manufacturers historically would have used the end cuts to squeeze into a corner. And if you scroll down even a little, there's an extreme example that's on display at the New Bedford Whaling Museum, where they're even using lead caning to repair broken panes to include back in the light. Just as another reference. And we spent about 1.5 years looking for somebody who makes reproduction crown window glass. Apparently nobody does anymore. But we found a company in France called Saint Just de Very, who makes reproduction glass that resembles crown glass. It looks just like crown glass. And so it's their colonial category, and it comes in different colors that we were able to color match to the green color glass that we found in the archaeological record behind the house. So the windows will be up to date.
Okay. What am I doing? So one of the things we'd also like to do to this would be to add a rear door to the building. We want to put it in on the 1695 section. We know there was there it is. We know there was a door there for the 1728L, but we're not sure if we had it for the first house. It's likely it had a back door, but there's no evidence to verify that. But we would like to do it for egress reasons and entrance to the garden. The drawing's a little off. The door is actually under the second floor window, and it is basically the window with the plywood in it. It's the same opening right there, where that door would be. The details for the door, is that right? There we go. Is basically copying the front door. It'd be a board and batten door, similar latch, same frame, same moldings. It's pine. It would have had a white oak or something threshold. Pediment, maybe, but we're going to do it just a copy in kind as what the front door is right now.
Excuse me,
That's on
is that like an inlay?
No, that's just a board with a diamond square cut into it, scratched into it, with nails clinched through the points. So board and batten door, solid board batten door. Come on. Is chimney next? I guess so. One of the big problems we've always had with this house was its chimney that was constructed in the 60s. It was ambitious, large, in the wrong place, a lot of things. And it also was discovered 4 or 5 years ago that because of the ground problem, water problems, it was listing, it was leaning, it had dropped about 3 inches in length. It was tied to the frame of the house, and it was putting undue pressure on everything. So it had to come down. So it was like perfect time to let's try to build it in its proper position as best as we could and determine. And this is the position. You can see the stack is offset from the ridge. It's back. It's not at the ridge like the present chimney is. That's a little odd, but there's chimneys out there like that. We also eliminated the pilasters. Kind of extra decorative for a house that started out as a 1/1 and then got added onto with another frame in 1703. So it just didn't seem likely. So we relocated where the chimney, as best as we could figure, was located. Brick type for the outside is just Moran waterstruck colonial red. I guess you've approved of that before. That's all over Strawberry Bank already anyways, those chimneys, those bricks. The siding, we're going to keep it in kind. It was, it's presently white pine. Originally, it was white pine. We've discovered period clapboards in the 1703 frame that was attached to the first house. Reused claps that were taken off from the east wall of the first first frame. And we would continue that. We would also continue the lapping and the way they, the lapping the way it is. I'm not controlling that. He's controlling that.
Sorry.
Okay, well, wait a minute, go back. So there it is in kind. It would stay in kind in this nature. Looking at other first period houses, that's very common. The water table is very good. But the thing that is interesting here is the corner board. Okay, now you can go. This is a really neat image. This is a 1695 house in North Andover, Massachusetts. Finch and Rose gave me this copy. This is just identical to the east end of Sherburne House when it was just a 1/1. This would have faced the river. This house here in North Andover, it's the same situation. 1/1. The back wall or the side wall, gable end wall, has no windows in it. That's what we would have had. The chimney and the staircase prevent any window openings. This gets sandwiched in between another frame. That's how come this whole wall survived. They just left it there and put a whole new frame right up against it. Well, this is the exact same situation for Sherburne too, except for our wall got removed and reused, or taken down and removed when they added that second frame. But the interesting thing here is, again, it's the lap clapboards like we already presently have. The water table's the same size. But it's the corner boards on on the actual corner itself. That's the neat thing here. There is no corner board. The clapboards go to the end of the corner of the house. And talking with Finch about this, there's other North Shore, Massachusetts houses that do this too. There's about 6 of them. And it's a cool thing. And it's like, boy, wouldn't it be fun to do that here? But I didn't want to do that unless I had a Portsmouth example. So noodling around, there's our Portsmouth example. This is in the Warner House. It's the cupola. It's the same situation. Has no corner boards. The clapboards just come, and these miter, but the ones on a 90-degree wall overlap. As you saw in the picture before, the claps on the gable end just come flush, but the front ones overlap. So they have a little half-inch overhang. So it seems like a fun thing to do, and that's what we're requesting, some new method, technique to use as an interpretive tool in architecture. Warner houses, this is the east side of Warner. The west has the same layout. The 6 posts are all done of this nature. The other point was the graduation of the clapboards don't exist, and they don't at Sherburne, so we'd keep that same approach going. What else we got?
That's it.
That's it?
Answers to questions.
That's it?
Hey, questions?
With all of the care that you're putting to the clapboards, what are you going to use for fasteners?
Rosehead nails.
I don't think they make them anymore.
And yeah, they do. You can get them. We got them.
Oh, good.
We had a guy make them. Yep.
We can go to France for glass. We can get Rosehead.
We didn't ourselves go to France.
This is the original location of this house?
Yep.
Yes.
It was never moved?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Other question?
Well, just, this is fascinating and excellent, and I love learning about it as you guys have done so much research. It's kind of fun to get a sneak peek preview of like what this is, what's going to happen here. But I did have a question because you mentioned that you are having issues with the water and everything. So I know that it's not part of this application per se, but I'm just curious as to what else you're doing.
Yeah, so John mentioned that the 1968 chimney with HTC approval was removed before it did permanent damage to the structure. And so we're left with obviously wanting to interpret this house, which had a chimney. We've been working with the structural engineer and an architect to figure out how to build a chimney without using the soils as the structure, because there is no soils left. It's
Right.
basically like drippy castle material.
Yeah.
The groundwater is at the level of the basement floor. So we think we're probably going to have to do pilings, helical pilings into the soils down to at least a firm clay. We were never able to find bedrock, so at least down to the clay. And then we'll probably have to take some steps to minimize the weight of the chimney mass in areas that won't be visible, because we just can't, there's nothing to support a full chimney. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, good luck. Thank you about that.
The height of the chimney, I assume, was chosen because this is how high it would have been at that time, since there were no fire codes.
Height was just looking at other examples and.
Oh, you need to
coming
step
a
up to
happy
the microphone.
conclusion as to what it could have been. There's no evidence to tell us anything about that sort of thing. Could have been taller.
And when the clapboards go on, right now you have very, very weathered clapboards, so for a
Yes.
while this house is going to look
No.
very new.
Some of it.
Are they going to be bare and let to weather just as they had
Yes.
in the past?
Yes. We're toying with a treatment of oil finish, pine tar and turpentines, where we've got a couple of different batches of concoctions made up to see how they react and look. We've not made any decision on a finish. It won't be paint. And it probably will stay like it looks today, eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, anybody from the public wishing to comment on this application? No. Okay, well, we'll close the public hearing then, and I await a motion.
Do them all night. I'll move that we approve this application as presented.
Second.
Second.
It's pretty much all of them. So this has, what do I want to say? It promote the education, pleasure, and welfare of the district to the city residents and visitors. And it has relation to historic and architectural value of the existing structure.
All right, we'll do a roll call then. Rich?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Johanna?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, so we are on to work sessions, old business. We have one request, sorry. Oh, okay, sorry, new business. All right, this is request to postpone?
You're right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Request to postpone, work session requested by Christopher Daniel Freund, owner for property located at 37 Prospect Street. And then we have a request to withdraw the work session requested by 95 Daniel Street for property located at 95-99 Daniel Street. So I thought we could just do those two at the same time.
Is this a request to postpone just to next month?
Yes.
That's correct. Yep.
I move that we request to postpone A to next month and approve the request to withdraw.
Second?
Thank you. And Johanna, why don't we start with you?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Reagan?
Aye.
Dave? Karen?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, so that brings us to the last item on the agenda. Our very patient folks here. All right, this is a work session requested by Sean and Michio Bardong, owners for property located at 39 Dearborn Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior construction to an existing structure, replace existing roofing structure, add a new side and entry additions as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 140 as Lot 7 and lies within the General Residence A and Historic Districts. Come on up. Or is Amy's going to do the presentation?
She's
Okay.
working herself in right this moment. Should be speaking to us shortly.
It being a work session, we're going to move?
Are we going
Oh, yes, we could definitely move down there and have a seat. No, he doesn't? I don't.
I have a question before we get started.
Sure.
This is the existing garage here, correct?
Oh, no, it's not ours.
Oh, that's the neighbor's garage. Did I look at the right house?
The red one is not our house.
Oh, I looked at the wrong house. Okay, that explains it. I couldn't figure out the water view. Boo.
Okay. Is Amy with us yet?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Wonderful. Before you start, I'm going to have the two of you introduce yourselves.
Yeah, Sean Bardon, 39 Dearborn Street.
Michio Bardong.
Wonderful. Welcome. So, Amy, are you going to lead off?
Yes, I will. The empty seat is mine. Sorry, I'm at a trade show, so working, but not there. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that this property has been in front of the HDC previously, but this is a proposal which is new to you. So thank you for your time and energy working on this project with us. As a larger overview, what we are looking at is a property that many of the aspects already have been approved but never built. But the largest change that we are proposing that we will make to this structure is a new roof system. The existing roof system, the house, the historic part of the house, I think Sean could probably give a little bit more history on. I believe it was barged over somewhere around 1800, is maybe in the best case scenario as a cottage or a cape. The existing roof is a failed roof. It right now has just a rubber roof system. From the interior, you can see open rafters that are about 4 inches thick or so. And it houses 2 bedrooms and a staircase, that's it. So the challenge there is we can't get any building code and still get livable square footage on the second floor. So that brought us to the proposal of building a Dutch colonial. You can see the last sheet does have several examples of local Dutch colonials that we can review a little bit later. In thinking this, we would not have to change the footprint, which we don't want to do, of the main structure, then and keep essentially that rectangle of the main structure, and then build the new roof system, which then the kitchen addition and the family room, quote unquote, additions or wings would attach onto a larger mass, which to me, I think that it looks cleaner lined, and as those 2 wings roof lines can die into that mass. So that's kind of the biggest change that you're going to see. The other change is that we are proposing a family room off to the front of the house. Is also kind of hard to gauge, but I would say towards the front of the house, and then a little mud room also towards the front of the house. And then this will allow us to create the courtyard that has been talked about in previous years, with a granite entry and step. And I am proposing or showing you some ideas about landscaping, just because I think that that's a really important part of this project as well. The existing house kind of looks like not quite done. The work that the previous owner did was beautiful, but just the main part of the house never really got completed. So unless Sean has anything to add from the introduction, I think it's probably helpful to start the conversation about your thoughts.
I have nothing to add at this point.
Okay.
So, any initial reactions to the change of a small cape to a Dutch colonial?
We're all pretty familiar with the Dutch colonial as a design. Whether it's by everyone's standards appropriate as a conversion from the Cape, I don't know. But as far as the concept of a Dutch colonial with a 1-story pitched roof shed off the side or addition on it, pretty common stuff. I'm fairly comfortable with all of this. Whether this is the place for it, I don't know. But one thing that jumps out at me, I can't stop myself, other than the diagonal chimney, is how close you're running the, we'll say the sunroom to the garage. That seems a recipe for disaster.
In what regard?
It's what, 8 inches of space between the two?
A foot or so, yeah.
It's not much for
It's
maintenance. It just, your left-hand side up against your property line, you've paved just to avoid the problems of maintaining a small area. It seems like this is a crazy thing to do.
Would you rather, I guess in my mind, I was trying to keep it that roof line is really low on the shed, and it created this very complicated roof connection, if you will, that I think I'm not sure it would look very attractive as we would connect that, and also was concerned about massing, that the mass would be seen as too significant.
Running them together, I can see certainly what you're getting at. It'd be like watching a train wreck. None of the planes match up, none of the pieces line up, they articulate front to back. It seems wrong.
Amy?
To connect them?
Well, just it's the place that you've brought us to have this conversation. It seems like you've pushed it too far. Yes.
Well, the living space is what we're concerned about. The shed is a relic of the previous owner, right? So he built a fishing workshop in there where he made lures and stuff like that. That's not, we have a variance to have space over it. It's not something, we're wedded to. We're rather, we're not going to be sitting with our 3 children and their grandkids in there. So that, I've already thought about, whether we take it down at some point or whatever. So I'm what's more important in this project is that we renovate the house properly end to end. And, so that's the, we're trying not to throw the baby out with the bathwater by tearing the shed down right away, but it obviously is something that, is storage, right? And so the question is, do we touch it right away? Do we deal with it at a future date? I mean, it's structurally able to hold Michio's car, probably. It's kind of an odd way that they built it. They kind of built it to have a footing that's strong enough to have a car in it. You could grade it up to it, open the doors, and roll your car into it. But he used it like just to hold all his fishing gear and build lures. So it's kind of an odd space. So I mean, it was perfect for him, but like for us, we're using it like to hold lawn equipment right now. So,
Amy, does it currently have, or did you plan to put gutters on it to protect the end of the addition from moisture and water running down the side of it?
I mean, we could do that. I think Amy said that the HDC doesn't typically like gutters. I don't know if that's...
Depends on whether there's a need there.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised at that because you either put a French drain in underground so that you carry the water away from the structure and don't do damage. That is an issue that came up in an earlier submission I think you folks had, of somebody down on the south side who had water off one side of the house hammering the other house and causing rot. So, yeah, so I think that's, we could run a gutter on the shed and distribute the water down into a French drain and take it away from the house.
Other questions?
Yeah, we will have to do a water mitigation plan anyway because we do have to go in front of Conservation Commission. And siding wise, I was planning that, we can treat both of those walls. I mean, you're right. It is going to be a construction challenge, to say the least. I mean, and all over the South End, there are houses built this close, which is why we kind of got that far out. And like I said, the shed is almost like a liability at this point. There is a function of where they need the house to go, if that makes sense.
Yes, Reagan.
I'll just come out and say I'm having a really hard time with the loss of the cape in this design. I mean, you're redesigning it. I understand your needs. It is a small house, but I remember I was on the commission when they redid this current house years ago, and we worked really hard to try and preserve the sense that this is a very old cape on this property, and that even though it's got some new wings on it and things like that, you can still see that that's what is at the core of this building. And by turning it into a Dutch colonial, it's just gone. Like that history of this historic cape on this property is gone. Like nobody will ever see it again.
Yeah, so we understand that. That's why we invested the time walking around town, looking at the older Dutch colonials that are out there, to look at the trims and make sure that we carried similar, the ridge line and all that.
It's not like David said, there are plenty of Dutch colonials around. That's not, that's not the issue. It's not that the Dutch colonial is inappropriate in this location.
Sure.
It's just that by doing this, you're erasing the fact that there is a cape here, which is the original older structure. That's the history of this property.
So what you're getting, if I understand what you're saying, Reagan, is that basically by approving this, we are approving the demolition of an old structure and a
Essentially.
replacement with a completely different structure, even if some components of it physically remain. As a part of the neighborhood, it is the destruction of a cape and the building of a new building. And we are responsible for deciding about whether.
Well, it's not the building of a new building. We're renovating. I mean, if you look at the structure of the roof is the only thing that's changing here.
Right. But it's essentially what is going to be presented in the
No,
neighborhood
I understand that,
is
right?
going to be new and different.
Sure, I understand that, right? And there are actually no Dutch colonials in our neighborhood that are in the historic district. They're all on the south side.
Right.
So I get all that. And I did read the notes and I listened to the video and all that. So at the time, I think they talked about Dutch colonials in Kittery, I think was the reference that they made in that hearing. So we have 3 children. We have a big family. We have the needs of having the full space there. What happens when you renovate this Dutch colonial, the cape, and you start putting dormers on it to maximize the full space of the second floor, you start looking like something that was built in the 1970s, right? So what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, let's build something that looks like it was built back in the 1800s by raising the ridge line, making sure that the trim lines around the roof sections look and feel like something that's that age. So that's the intent around it.
Right.
Other thoughts?
Could I just ask a question, the 2 historic photos, do you happen to know when those were taken?
No. Can I see those?
I mean, those
the
are
one with the wrapping
really,
on it,
really old.
This was done, I think, when the last owner built it. The deck, I believe, was pre-existing when he started this project back in 2015. He started to take pieces off of it.
15.
Yeah. I went through all the files, went through all the building permits and all that to go find exactly how this thing came together. There's a lot of stuff they got approval for, they never went and did. And I've crawled into the eaves to look at the roof structure. Roof structure is never really fixed. It's if just looking at the artifacts in there, because I've actually built other homes before, so looking at the artifacts in there is like, you got lumber that's 50 years old that's in one of the rooms, and so we've got a bowed roof because of all the deterioration of different products that they've used. So yeah. So and the other aspect of this thing is that because of the structure, the state that it's in right now, we need to bolster it so that the floor structure on the second floor has actually got, space to carry utilities. No bathroom on the second floor, right? So there's, this is, yeah. So that, we looked at it, we read through all the documents and reviewed it, understood why the dormers didn't make a lot of sense on the original roof. Yeah. So.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, please
Sean?
go ahead, Amy. Yeah.
So one thing that I do want to ask the board is, I've provided here, you're seeing the 3 views that we could gather, of course, it's winter, from Dennett, Dearborn, and Maplewood, you can see, I understand and I appreciate your point of view. The house really is very hard to see. And what is your perspective on that? Or you just don't care? I'm just not sure, like.
Well, it's hard to view this as a landmark property in that sense. It's got a couple of large sheds on the sides of it. It's not a pristine piece of architecture. I guess what's funny about what happens, though, when you start changing it, yes, you're leaving some of the floor structure and the walls, maybe parts of them will be from the original building. All you're replacing is the roof. But in the process of making that roof, rationalizing that new roof as the core part of this house, you're also changing the sashes so that they are appropriate to that. The sashes are no longer appropriate to the cape that was there. The sashes are not early 19th century sashes. They're
None
arts and crafts.
of the windows are originals, and the sashes they're all like
indeed, but
they're like, I think when we looked in, they're like 1960s, Amy. I think something like that. Around that time.
Have this problem at home too?
No, that's all right.
They date 1960 to 2015.
Sure, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is that you're altering the storyline. You're changing the way that the house is viewed, and so this really is going to become a house from another time than it is currently. I'm not thinking that it's going to be a drain to the neighborhood. Honestly, I'm not saying that there's. Abutting properties don't deserve any better, but this is a fair-looking building, and it might be a thing that simulated some rethinking on some of the other properties that surround it. I'm kind of on board with this, I guess.
Karen?
I kind of feel the same way that David does. I hate to lose the Cape. It's like the city says it's around 1700, so it really is a nice part of the historic fabric of that area, but at the same time, you have a challenge, and I'm not sure what you can do to enlarge that house and still keep it as that cute little cape. You don't want a cute little cape.
When you have your house, yes.
Dan?
The unique part is your property, and your views and everything. And I think this is actually in improving that area, even though we're losing a little cape. It's a cape no one probably knew. Certainly the big boats going down the North Mill Pond aren't seeing it. Yeah. So I like the new design. I feel bad about losing the cape, but I think with that land and with that exposure and what you're doing, I can understand you changing to something bigger.
Well, I did see your house.
Okay.
And that's a great little neighborhood tucked back in there, and I feel the same way, kind of torn, like, oh, this beautiful little cape, but at the same time, I think you're trying to be really sensitive to the neighborhood. You're definitely elevating the neighborhood. So, yeah, I would have to say, it's hard because you want to be sensitive to the historic fabric of the neighborhood, but you also have to be sensitive to the people who are living in it. So I'm kind of torn, but I wouldn't say no, I guess.
So this is a work session. The question, I guess, is if, to the extent that people are on board with the Colonial, are there any comments about the design of the Colonial itself? And Rich, I'm going to assume you'll just jump in here.
Yeah, I'll jump in with it.
Okay. Any issues with the proposed design? Fenestrations? Yes, Rich.
I mean, I'm like other commissioners have said, I'm not excited about losing the story that is there. I understand the want to enhance the property and the need to enhance the property, or the roof at least, the repairs that need to be made. So I'm not going to be the only one that goes against that, and it will enhance the neighborhood. So.
I think Dave always gets right to the salient points right from the get-go, and I do think that you have to kind of look at that little, I had a house on Prey Street. This is much room, and the house developed a really serious mold problem. So it's something you're going to have to consider as you go forward.
So the other thing we haven't been able to discuss with Amy is the idea of taking down the shed and rebuild, basically connecting the foundation between the family room there so it connects through, and so that you actually widen the footing of that shed, so basically connecting the two pieces. And then you put, so you don't have that wall-to-wall problem. The family room will step down into what would be a garage, I guess. It'd be wide enough to park a small car in it, and that would mitigate all that. So we're just trying to figure out, with the working session, it gives us an opportunity to hear your feedback and your recommendations. So we haven't really we have some builders that we've talked to, but we're trying to get the architecture design piece out of the art of the possible, and then from there adjust to it.
Is it impractical to think about moving it 90 degrees?
The shed?
Yeah.
Yeah. The shed's kind of very close to the property line. It's got this history of a variance
too long if you
with a
turned it?
neighbor next door who was. So there's a what do you call it? A line of sight easement that's about 10 feet forward of it.
Yeah.
So we can go up. We can go up and we can go forward. I think, but what we're trying to do is just minimize the cost of that impact.
It is.
So to me, I would say, go ahead, Amy.
It is also not exactly parallel to the house.
It's not exactly.
So the connection, it is not exactly parallel to the front of the house. So it's just skewed for, I don't know why, but it is skewed a little bit. But yes, the point of this session was we really wanted to get your feedback. And I totally respect your point of view, Reagan. I think we went round and round and round. I've talked to the building department. There's no way that we can hit code in renovating the house. So either way, the Cape is, while we could rebuild a Cape, it's still, I agree with Sean, it would almost look odd in order to get headroom, but we would be up against the exact same thing as when we go to hit code, we can't with the existing roof structure, if that makes sense.
Other comments on the design? I just have one, and that is the proposed north elevation. The mudroom, I think, comes out to the face of the Dutch Colonial, and it causes for me, I think this is what's making me feel that the Dutch Colonial looks very heavy from this particular view. So Amy, I'd be interested in seeing an iteration where that was pulled back a little bit to see if it changes some of the proportion. I'm not an architect, but
You said the north. You said the north side.
There's a funny thing going on. I think what is listed on the drawings as north elevation is actually the south elevation.
Okay.
I think it's looking north.
Okay, but this is the correct.
Yeah, that's looking from the south to the north. Yeah.
It's not how it should be.
Okay. In any case, this is the view I'm concerned about, and if it's a mudroom, right, on the right-hand side?
That's correct.
With the railing over it?
With the railing above it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just wondering if that was pulled back a little bit.
When you say pulled back, which way? Towards the
To
house?
the left?
To let the corner
Off
of
the
the
corner of the house.
gambrel show.
Yeah, and that would allow the rest of the Dutch
Gambrel to be
Colonial
footed.
to show. You can actually see it come all the way down, because right now, there's something about those two structures sitting in the front that's making this house look very, very big, to me. And this is possibly an optical illusion of the fact that these are drawings.
Yeah.
But I just, something just doesn't quite sit.
Yeah, well, even in the renderings.
It would also,
I mean, it's
it
not-
would keep the railing from having to end up running into the edge of the roof also. The
Yes,
steep,
yeah,
steeply pitched roof.
yeah, we can pull that back and get it off the roof line.
I mean, that was, that and the secondary, the new chimneys. One is plain and the other has a little bit of a top to it. Was that,
Which one has the top that you're noticing? Is it
No,
the main structure or the?
yeah,
main
that was
structure
just an
has a-
oversight on my part.
Okay, I was just checking.
I think they would match for sure, and I think we were trying to stay with a Dutch colonial center chimney, so we would match the two chimneys, yeah, for sure.
Are these operating chimneys or are these decoration?
The shorter
The one in the
is
family
operational.
room will operate.
And this is probably way too early, but most of your materials, you're planning natural materials, historic.
Amy has it called out on the drawings there. In terms of the materials, Amy, I think that it's
We
have
are
cedar shingle on the
proposing,
shingle facades there.
And just in general, you're
Hardy's-
headed towards natural materials as much as possible.
Yeah, I think we have the hardy board siding, but then what looks like shingles is cedar shingles like that's on the kitchen and on the shed currently.
Mm-hmm.
Painted hardy board, Amy, is that what you had called out there?
Correct.
And the reason for choosing the hardy board versus wood?
Maintenance.
The proximity to
repair, and-
water and maintenance.
One of the things, like living, what we noticed is that with the pond, the water dynamic, and we lived on the close to the water down south. The temperature differentials, the load of water that comes up on the house is incredible. Like just with the wind shifting and the temperature changing, it's incredible how much moisture just comes right off the pond if you're at the right tide and everything is soaked. So it's kind of surprising, and so going with something that's very durable, I think would be.
Have you had any, did you think at all about lowering the sunroom, whatever it is, family room, to cut down on the problem of it connecting to the garage?
We did have it lower, and it kind of was just too low and too flat. Honestly, at this point,
Yeah.
the garage is going to go away. We don't really need it.
I like it there.
Well, I know we like it. We have so the issue is we have a variance for the footing, right? Can we do something that ties in better with that ridge line, with the ridge line coming off the family room, so it's proportionally makes sense? I agree with you. It makes no sense right now.
I'll get off it.
No, it's cool. I mean, my wife and I had a conversation about this just 2 days ago, and she was rolling her eyes at me. So it's definitely,
decided.
I know, we haven't decided yet, but it definitely is something that jumps out at us, and I'm sure if we see it every day, it's probably not going to stay there very long. We'll be back in front of you again.
Can I ask the board a direction question as we look at this elevation? If we were to raise the roof of this shed garage to match that line of the family room, that would get the ridge up higher so that the ridge of the family room can die into the garage. Is that something that the board would rather see?
I'm just going to say I think there are advantages and disadvantages to that. I think that trying to align and put those buildings in as one solves some of the heartburn that Dave had, but it raises a question of mass for me, that when you start putting
Correct.
the buildings together, which I think is what you were well aware of when you went this route. So you have a bit of a conundrum.
The masses were like, it's just too big a building connecting together. I mean, the one good thing that's, with this property is they tucked it all the way in the back, and it's, it's not visible from the street, unless you're really peer around. So, yeah. So we're, in terms of our lot coverage, we're at 12.7%, I think, out of 25. So, I don't know how you measure mass, but like is that how?
No, for the purposes of the HDC, it doesn't go by the same.
Doesn't go by the same
It's
concept.
just the building itself.
Okay.
And because you are tucked far back, you are close to some back neighbors, and we need to think about them as well. You're not tied up, but they are there.
Yep, for sure.
I think we've probably done enough for
Okay.
a work session at this point. I think we've covered a lot of the big points, and some of your concerns are some of our concerns, and vice versa.
Sounds good.
So there's nobody here, unless there's somebody online. Isaac? Okay. The public is welcome to comment.
We haven't gotten around to we talked roughly with a couple of our close neighbors so far, so they kind of know. They haven't seen the drawings just yet.
It's always a good idea.
But no, we're going to take it around to them, but with the cold weather, you don't really bump into people as much. Yeah. And we've been under the weather the last few weeks, so we didn't get a chance to get out in front of them, but we'll do that.
Little thermos of warm drinks.
Exactly.
I'd like to, at this stage, move that we continue this to the next meeting of the Historic District Commission and take it back up as a work session.
Okay. Is that what you'd like to do?
Sure. Okay. Just want to move forward as much as we can.
All right, there's a motion and a second to continue it for 1 month. And we'll do a roll call, starting with Johanna.
Aye.
Reagan.
Aye.
Aye.
Aaron. And Rich. Rich and Dave.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
All right.
Do we have specific takeaways you want us to follow up on for next month? or-
Amy's probably heard a lot of them.
She's got them, okay.
Yeah. And you can listen to them again. Okay, great.
Cool.
We are not going to adjourn right away. Don't everybody run away. You're welcome to run away.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So,
Thank you very much for all your help.
Oh, you're welcome, Amy. Thank you. There is no meeting on the 8th because we don't have any additional items. But I did want to talk about the idea of planning for something in March, if it's a light agenda, and we can get a second meeting in or half of a second meeting to talk about projects administratively in the future. So some of the concepts we talked about, or I've talked with John about, is review of past projects, that we have an opportunity to go back and take a look at things that have been built maybe in the past 5 or a little longer. Were they successful? Are we happy with how they turned out? How was the neighborhood reacted to and responded to the new structure? If they used new and different materials at the time that were supposed to be so fantastic, how have those turned out? And just to have an opportunity to formally go back and take a look at some of these things. To get that done, we probably want it to be warmer and lighter in the evening, so it's not something that we would do right away. The other would be, are there some materials and things coming up that we want to talk about and start getting to know, like the product that you brought forward for 55 Gate Street to go behind.
Oh, yes.
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 So certain things like that we don't really have an opportunity to sit and talk about until somebody brings them to us, and then we're sort of back up on our heels, not really knowing what it's all about. And then ideas for what we might do with the grant funds that have, are working their way through the process. So those are just some of the things that I was thinking we might want to talk about in a meeting in March, if we can slip a little bit of time in, and then that would allow us to sort of prioritize, maybe come up with some different ideas of things that we'd like to talk about, and then plan out how we're going to accomplish them.
Let's just quickly ask, where are the grant funds coming from?
So that's this new thing that I believe, well, I don't know if Nick is still on, if they have gone through the,
Maybe Mr. Blaylock would know.
maybe Rich knows, if the the
Certified legislative district or governmental district or whatever it is.
yes, certified, why, this is what I deal with every day, and it's just gone out of my brain.
Overload.
Yes, the Certified Local District, or Certified Local Government, excuse me, CLG grant is what the state distributes. They get a certain amount of money from National Park Service for preservation, for these, for little districts throughout the state. You have to be certified as a preservation sort of local government, and that's what I know that Nick has put in the application. Rich, I don't know if that has come before the city council yet for a vote?
It is not.
Okay.
Don't
well,
believe.
It should soon, hopefully. And
I'm here, Reagan. And I'll check with Peter Britz, but everything is ready to go from our standpoint to the city council.
great. So these, we may have missed this year's grant cycle, but it's coming up, but we should start to pull together ideas of what we think that we could apply for grants to do. This is money that is, the state has to give away, so let's take it.
Great. All right, so I just wanted to lay that out so that people would know that that was coming down the pike and you have a chance to think about it.
So within the course of the next month, we should all go out and pick a couple of projects that we think are worth having a conversation about.
I think that would be a great idea. We probably want a couple of categories, things like major, major construction, residential instruction, infill. Mostly, I think we're dealing with infill. I don't know if we have, Nick said he could take us a look through to see if there were any ADUs that we wanted to take a look at. I can't remember if there were any other categories. Nick, do you remember?
Let's look at window replacements.
And how that.
It's a very sensitive topic, we should know.
Yeah, and then tearing down of chimneys was one we talked a little bit about before. So, put your thinking hats on, email me and John with your thoughts, and we'll start to pull it together and put them into different topics, and then lay out how we want to approach those.
Good.
Okay.
I have one more quick little
Yes.
thing, and I'm sorry, I meant to alert you that I was going to bring this up. I got an email through the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance that said that, I guess tomorrow at 1 p.m., if anyone is free, there is a free webinar that is being hosted by the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions that is talking about how small commissions can pull together some resources, or what they can do when they don't have specialized preservation planning resources. We're not quite that in that, we're not totally without any support, because we do have Nick and Isaac, we have staff, we have Nick who is preservation minded, but if anybody would like to watch it, I will send out the link, but it might just be interesting to see what they recommend for other commissions that don't have, we don't have a city preservation planner that some cities do, big cities so it might give us some ideas.
Is it going to be as depressing as that rising sea level webinar that we went to?
Let's hope it's a little bit,
Because I didn't sleep that night. Really?
Yeah.
Sandbags up.
Oh, Christ.
If it's depressing for us, imagine for the younger folks.
Maybe, but I'm just thinking about the $500,000 I've got sunk into a pond. No, when you look down at the map and see that one of the benefits of sea level rising is it will help restore some of our riparian areas, because the seawater is going to overtake land that has been filled and countering that whole marsh development. Oh, and then they show you the map, and I live in one. It's really funny.
Well, as they say, you'll have waterfront view.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving.
Nobody truly knows the timeline, so don't.
Really, I'll show you a picture from last January and this December.
I know, but.
All right, so we have a motion to
really
adjourn?
know.
Yes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Second. Aye.
Rich, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you.